Well, I had just finished batting at home plate, and I was walking towards the dugout, and I saw Jeff Flake, and he says, "Can I have a ride?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to do one more trip to the batting cage." So the batting cage is in right field, but outside of the perimeter fence of the field. So I was in the batting cage, and we heard one loud shot. And, I grew up in the South. I know what a gun sounds like. I thought, well, maybe it's just somebody firing a, shotgun or something. Although we are in the city, not quite in the country, it was a little unusual. But at first, everybody just kind of looked up, kind of stopped what they were doing. But then we were about ready to go back to doing what we were doing. But then there were like 5 or 10 shots in a row, and everybody hit the dirt. Pretty quickly, Representative Scalise was hit fairly early on in the barrage of bullets. He was at second base, and it was at a point where people there weren't as many people on the field. People were sort of milling about. Some had gone to the dugout. But as the first shots rang out, people tried to get cover. So several congressmen went into the first base dugout and it's 2 feet below the surface. Dugouts are submerged. People were getting down below the ground surface to try to avoid the gunfire. The gunman, at first it was unclear for me where he was from. I got out of the batting cage and got behind a tree, a big oak tree behind the batting cage, but it took me a few seconds, and I wasn't positive whether there was one shooter or two, but also what direction the bullets were coming from. But there were 2 staff members that had run the perimeter of the outfield all the way to the right field corner, but there was a 20-foot fence separating me from them. So they're laying on the ground, but the bullets, even though we're pretty far away from the shooter, I'm probably 75 yards away from the shooter, the bullets are landing just a couple of feet from me on the other side of the fence. They're hitting the dirt of the warning track. I can see the dirt, poofing up as the bullets hit. And then it's a tough spot to be in. You have to decide, do you stay behind a tree or do you try to get the heck out of there? One of the staffers decided to scale the fence, and it was about a 20-foot fence, and he was over it in 2 seconds. And it was like boom, boom, boom. He was over the fence, and then he's behind the tree with me too. And at this point, we hear it looks like there's a slight pause. There's probably 50 or 60 shots. Then there's a pause. And then he's either reloading or moving. And I got the feeling that people, other congressmen and other staff were changing their position behind buildings. And so I got the feeling that he was coming towards us. And that's sort of the decision, do you stay or go? And had the Capitol Police not started engaging fire at that point, or had they not been there, I think it would have been a massacre because we had no weapons, we had no defense. But this was Representative Scalise, his security team, and sort of the irony is he took this bullet, and it sounds like he's going to survive, and I wish him the best, and our prayers are with him. But he took this bullet, but his security team saved everybody's lives there. They would have been a killing field had the security team not be there. And you can't say enough good things about the Capitol Hill Police. Some policemen never have a firefight their whole career. These 2 returned fire, eventually took them down. Both of them were shot. Just amazing courage.
And an amazing example of doing their duty, as they often say in circumstances like this. Can you tell us whether they're seen to be shooting at random or seeming to shoot directly with intended targets?
If I had to guess, I would say it's at random. I mean, obviously at people, but I think it's hard to tell who people are with their hats on and their uniforms out there. And I get the feeling this was sort of, somebody said he shouted out, is this R's or D's? And someone shouted back, Republicans. I guess that's before he had a weapon. They knew he had a weapon, and that's when the gunfire exploded. But I get the feeling that it wasn't specific members. I get the feeling that it was all Republicans. And somebody else said they thought they heard something about health care. I can't confirm that. I didn't hear either of those statements, so that is sort of hearsay. But I think it was politically motivated. I think we'll probably find, I don't know, if I had to guess, that there'll be either a mental illness component or some kind of psychological disorder. What would be my guess.
Congressman Paul, did you actually see the shooter? Did you actually see the shooter at any time?
Vaguely. Everybody was saying he has a blue shirt on by the third base dugout, and I could see movement. But I was kind of not putting my head out behind the tree as much, And so the gunshots were pretty close to where we were, within about 5 feet of where I was. And so I was just trying to be concerned about which side of the tree to stand on because I wasn't sure which direction the bullets were coming from. But so I couldn't have identified the shooter, but they did get the shooter. And so, and from what I understand, he may be alive. And if he is, we will get more story out of this. But I can't say enough about the Capitol Hill Police, and without them, I think it would have been a massacre. And we are very lucky to have such brave men and women guarding us.
How many people were there when the shooting broke out?
Probably 15 to 20 congressmen and 2 senators and probably 5 to 10 staff members and people who just volunteered to help with us. So it was, there's probably 30 or 40 people on the field and completely defenseless. Without the Capitol Hill Police, we had no chance. And that's when you start to wonder and you have to make a quick decision. Do I stay or do I go? You've got protection if you're behind a tree, but is that going to last as the gunman advances? And your best, you have to decide when's your best chance to try to make a run for it. Still out in the open, but at least a moving target if you're running.
Do you know how many people were hit?
No, I think both Capitol Hill Police were shot. I think, obviously, Representative Scalise was shot. And I can't confirm, but at least 1 or 2 others were. And that's what I haven't heard because I'm very concerned that there are reports of someone with a very bad gunshot injury, a staff member. But I can't give you that detail because I don't know it. I'm just very worried about at least one person.
Senator, let me ask you, after Whip Scalise was shot, what happened?
Well, the sad thing is nothing could happen. He laid there, but he was crawling, so we knew he was alive. And he crawled about 10 to 15 yards into the outfield. He was in the dirt of the infield at second base, and he was able to crawl into the outfield. And he was slow, but he was working it, and he was doing it with his elbows. He was trying to stay low and crawl at the same time. I see it's a decision he's got to make. Do you lay there and just hope he thinks you're dead, or is he going to walk out there in 5 minutes and finish you off? So I think he felt like everybody else, there's got to be a time where you actually have to try to flee. But nobody could get to him because he was in the wide open field. At that point, he's the only one left on the field. So as the gunshots ring out, he falls, everybody flees the field, but the gunshots are spraying the whole width of the field. Nobody could, the people in the dugout are ducking down beneath the level of the field. Nobody could run out to help him. The other good thing is I think the shooter gave up on going. I don't know if he could tell he's moving, and so, but the shooter didn't shoot back at him that I could tell. And so that was fortunate, and but nobody could get there to help him until the shooter was brought down. I think anybody that's ever been in a situation like this, it seemed like an hour, but it was probably 7, 8, 10 minutes. But I promise you, without the Capitol Hill Police, we wouldn't have survived. Police did finally come, but it was probably, and you can't blame the local police. It just takes a while to get anywhere, and you hear gunshots. They probably were there in 10 or 15 minutes. But without the Capitol Hill Police there, we wouldn't have had a chance against the shooter.
But you suggest a scene in which everybody's trying to find, you found a tree and other people went into the dugout. Everybody knowing that they might be in danger. You have the Congressman Scalise trying to, on his elbows, get out of the way as he thought he was trying to do. Everybody, seems like a sense of enormous alarm that they may be in the line of fire.
Everybody was in the line of fire. The people in the dugout were seeing the bullets careening off the dirt. The dirt would explode into the dugout as the bullets hit the dirt in front of the, in front of the dugout. Where I am in right field, even though I'm outside the main fence, I'm right where the warning track begins in the very right corner of right field, and the dirt is. I can see the dirt of the warning track. That's why I was trying to figure out which way it was coming from, because by looking at the bullets hitting the dirt. But they were hitting right next to us there in the outfield. So he's just spraying everywhere. Anywhere he saw somebody standing or moving, he was spraying a target. The lucky thing is he didn't advance earlier, but it's also just, we can't say enough. We just didn't have a chance without the Capitol Hill Police there.
Yeah, Senator Paul, you paint a very terrifying and chaotic picture. Congressman Brad Winstrup, who was there, as you know, said it reminded him of his time in Iraq. Most of us have never been in a situation like this, and God forbid that it ever happens to anyone. But I'm wondering how this has affected you. You've had time to think about it. You actually saw people being shot, and how this has affected you personally.
I'm not sure I've had time to let it distill. I can tell you that I about had a heart attack running once we decided to make a break for it. The staff member and I took off in right field, and I had to scale a couple of fences, and I think I'm in good shape until I got to run with gunshots behind me, But, yeah, it is a traumatic thing. And I guess really more than the emotional was to me is sadness. I mean, I'm sad for the people who were shot, obviously, and I wish them well, and my prayers are with them. But I also am just sad that what a great country we have. And, you know, this game is one of the, my dad used to always say it's one of the best things about bipartisanship up here. I've gotten to know Democrats through the game. I get to know the House members. We joke around with each other. We have a good spirited game. It's for charity, for goodness sakes. We raise over $600,000 this year for the Boys and Girls Club of D.C. and for literacy. And someone decides they're going to shoot up people that are raising money for charity because they're angry about politics. And, you know, something's got to stop, you know. I mean, and maybe we'll find that this was mental illness, but if it's just pure hatred of people in politics, we got to figure out a better way.
Senator Rand Paul, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and glad that you are safe.